How's it going, guys? Public Safety Network back here again. I decided to do a video on a topic that I think is very important for people working in security, or a lot of times maybe in even general working with the public, and that is going to be mental health response. Security in a variety of capacities, whether it's universities, hospitals, any number of places can come across someone who is going through some type of mental crisis. It can come in a variety of different forms, including mental illness, some type of catastrophic or emotional event, or they may be under the influence of drugs and alcohol, or there might be compounding factors where it might be a multitude of these things. So we're going to kind of talk about the day and some tips from a security capacity on how you can respond to these type of events. The first thing I'm going to tell you guys is not really a tip, but be kind to others, professionally and in your own personal lives, because you don't know what someone's going through. And by your response to them, especially in security, some people see you as an authority figure. Your response to them and the way you treat people can have a profound effect on how they deal with it. Your kindness to someone could be the difference between talking them off a ledge or pushing them over that ledge. And so both in your professional and personal life, it's best to be kind to others, no matter the circumstances. So we're going to kind of start with tip number one. And tip number one is, when responding to some type of mental health response, is to keep yourself safe. Now, I don't generally like the stigma that people that have some form of mental illness or going through some type of mental crisis are dangerous. But when people are faced, again, with some type of event, or they suffer from some form of mental illness, or they're under the influence of drugs and alcohol, they may act differently than they normally would. And sometimes, based on the level of severity, they can act out violently. And so you just want to protect yourself. You can do that in a variety of ways. One is obviously keeping your distance, generally in a security capacity or other types of first responders. For the most part, if you're just talking to someone, you generally want to keep your distance, not only for their safety, but also for your own as well. It's just kind of a standard practice, whether someone has some form of mental crisis or not. Just keeping your distance is generally going to be a responsible thing for safety purposes. Secondly, is you're going to want to limit your response. Now, a lot of guards out there work solo, or they may work with a partner. Generally, having one or two people respond is going to be the appropriate amount, because what's going to happen is, if you have 3 or 4 or 5 guys respond, is you're going to overwhelm the person. Especially if someone's going through some type of mental illness where they're maybe having a break from reality, or maybe confused. Having 4 or 5 people in uniform surrounding them is going to most likely upset them even more, and it's just going to exacerbate the situation. So there's nothing wrong with having people there as kind of a backup, but you generally don't want to overwhelm the person by having too many people there while you're trying to talk to them. So you generally want to limit your response. Usually maybe have one person be the primary that does, most of the talking, if any, and the other person just more as a safety, while you have anyone else kind of stand off away, just in case you need them later, but so that they don't exacerbate the situation. Number 2 is, you're going to also want to make sure you contact the appropriate response. Now, for some places, they may have a list. They may have a list of crisis teams or behavioral intervention teams, or obviously fire or mental health clinics, or a variety of resources that they can call for an incident like this. For other people that may necessarily not have those resources, generally response is going to, at minimum, be the fire department. Paramedics, generally, most medium to large size fire departments usually have some form of mental response team that they can respond to people going through some type of crisis. So generally, you want to get in contact with them, especially if you think someone might be having some type of mental health issue, before you contact them, because it kind of gets them rolling, it gets them on the way. The police also may need to get involved, depending on how severe or what type of behavior this person is exhibiting. So generally, you're going to want to get those resources kind of rolling, either before you make contact, or right after you make contact with them. Tip number 3 is, you're going to want to generally actively listen to people. And what I mean by this is, you're generally going to want to let the person kind of do most of the talking, because this can do a few things. One, if the person maybe isn't suffering from necessarily a mental illness, but they're suffering from some type of emotional or catastrophic response from some events in their life that kind of maybe pushed them a little over the edge, or it's got them really worked up and very emotional. By letting them kind of talk and get it out, and kind of just sitting there without any judgment or giving any advice or really anything, it may alleviate some of the kind of steam they built up, and it may actually bring them back down to where they're maybe thinking a little more rationally. Sometimes when people are upset, they may just want someone to listen. They may just want someone to talk to, and without someone, without someone judging them or really even giving advice. They kind of just want someone to be there to listen, because they may not have that in their own life. And you being the person right in front of them, by actively listening to them, you may again be able to bring them down to a more calm and rational level. What it also does, as like a secondary, is it gives time for that response team to show up. So if you've called fire, if you called a crisis team, if you called the police or any number of these agencies, they're not going to be there generally right away. It may take them at minimum a few minutes to quite a bit of time for them to show up. And by keeping the person talking, keeping them kind of isolated and calm, it gives responders time to be able to get there and kind of assess the situation. So those are kind of combating things that you do by just generally listening to someone. I'm going to tell people, as much as you want to, I generally avoid giving advice or kind of inserting even your own type of personal situation into these things. And it's because we're not mental health professionals. We're not there to assess, diagnose, treat, really do any of that stuff. We're kind of just there as an initial response until we can kind of pass it along to someone whose professional job it is. It's the same way with providing first aid to people. Most security personnel are trained in basic first aid, maybe a little bit above that to a medical first responder. But we're only there pretty much to control the situation long enough for advanced medical care to get there. And it's the same with mental health. We're there long enough to kind of keep things under control, keep things stable until professional mental health teams can get there and take over. So I urge you just be the active listener. And that's at that point, that's what your main job is going to be. It's just kind of keep everything under control. And the last thing you're going to want to do is, once that team has shown up, so whether it's the fire department, the police, a crisis team has shown up on scene, let them take over. It is now their scene. Now you may have to stick around to gather information, maybe names, or whatever you need for possibly an internal report, or they may need information from you. But at that point, your best bet is to kind of just keep quiet, kind of step to the side, let them come in and take over and do their thing. Get any information yours after the situation has been taken care of, whether the person is released or maybe transported to a facility for more advanced care. But wait until all that is said and done before you start asking for information. So let the professionals take over, let them do what they need to do. All right, guys. So those are kind of my 4 tips for dealing with mental health response from a security standpoint. Sometimes you may be the first one to encounter situations like this, similar to other situations, and making sure that you have some idea of what to do, and then also who you need to contact to resolve these situations. If your site or company really doesn't have that kind of policy or procedures in place, I would highly suggest maybe having someone come in and kind of help you set up procedures for something like this, because it could happen at any point. It could happen from some random person. It could happen with an employee at the place you work. And so having some type of way to respond to that is going to lessen the chance that it's going to escalate into something that's going to require a more aggressive response. Also, they do not sponsor my videos, but if you also want, OSS Academy, based out of Texas, has a wonderful class on mental health response. I believe it's $15. I took it. I thought it was absolutely very, very helpful. in incorporating more training dealing with mental response. So if you guys haven't done that already, I'll go ahead and link it in the description below. If you guys haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell icon to let you know when I upload new videos, and like and share the video, guys. Thanks for all the support. The channel, again, continues to grow and grow every day, and I'm super excited about where the rest of the year is going to take me. If you're security or first responder, healthcare worker, or even grocery store workers working right now during this crazy time, I salute you guys. You guys are helping ease things along, and be proud of what you do. But thanks for watching, guys.